Hello kids, how are you doing today? Today we have a nice topic which is about daily highs and lows. What do you see in the following picture? Well, I see two different pictures. One of them shows a low tide and the other one shows a high tide. So what does the word tide mean? What are tides? Let's read together. A tide is the daily rise and fall of the ocean's surface. A tide is the daily. Daily, what does that mean? That means that tides happen every 24 hours and 50 minutes. So they happen daily. Rise and fall are opposites. Look at the picture. In the first one, we have a high tide, right? Look at the level of the ocean. And the second picture shows the low tide. So they are opposites for the same place, for the same location. It happens because of what? What force can cause tides? Or what force can cause high and low tides? Gravity, excellent. So it happens because of the gravitational pull of the moon on the earth and earth's oceans. What? We did not get it. Okay, now we're gonna show you more and more pictures. How do earth and the moon interact to cause tides? Let's see together. Look at the picture. You can see high tides and low tides, right? High and low are opposites, just like rise and fall. High tides and low tides are caused by the moon. How? Look at the moon. When the moon is above an ocean, it causes high tide. What about the opposite side? What do you see? It causes high tide too. And what about the parts of the ocean between the two areas of high tide? Look at the parts of the ocean between the two areas of high tide. Do they show a low tide or a high tide? Low tide, excellent. So the moon's gravity generates something. Do you know what we call it? Tidal force, which is the same force, the gravity force. And this is another picture. Look at the moon. When the moon is above an ocean, it causes what? A high tide or low tide? High tide, right? What about the opposite side? It shows a high tide too. What about the parts between the two areas of high tide? They show low tides. Do you know that coastal areas experience 2 high tides and 2 low tides daily? So, is it a cycle? Yeah. Tides are considered a pattern. Do you know why? Because the ocean water rises and falls over and over again, as you see in the picture. What are the parts of the tide cycle? High tide and low tide. Look at the following picture. Do you think that this picture shows a high or a low tide? Excellent, it shows a low tide. That's why you can find different kinds of animals and plants. And this is another picture that shows you different kinds of plants that you can find at a seashore habitat. Do you think that this picture shows a high or a low tide? Excellent, it shows a low tide.